All right, everybody, it's 11:11 on the dot, EST. I like to come on here for about an hour every day and discuss some things when it comes to politics, when it comes to religion. I am not religious. I'm not politically affiliated. And we'll get into a little bit of that. But first, we are going to play some music to recognize a synchronicity that sort of shows up every day, at least twice a day, on everyone's clock. And we're going to recognize that the sun comes up and it goes down. We're going to recognize that the moon comes up and it goes down. Other than that, you can take your math and shove it up your ass. Nothing is so certain that insanity isn't on the table. Moderation in everything, including moderation itself. And the idea that we come up that collectively make us, sure, they're mystical, they're wonderful. And we want to be grounded in reality. And I'm not about the esoteric over the exoteric. But I do want to give time for play. And so that's what this is all about. Hello, people. Of course, where I play badly, so you guys can recognize that I'm just another human just like you. Yeah, if you're coming on in, go ahead and say something in the chat. It'll be fine. And that's that. All right, we're going to go ahead and just chill out for a second. I'm going to take this off. Play a little piano there. Hi, everybody. My name's Tet. And this is Time Dad Alpha. Time. It's the only commodity you'll never get back. At least according to this place. And if we do get it back, it's going to be in some strange fashion. Maybe we'll keep a journal. Maybe we'll take a picture. And maybe one day we'll say to all those pictures and all those things, I can let you go now. But right now, this isn't a religious thing. This isn't to make you feel good. But I come in here to the politics section because, I'm not here to minister. I'm not here. I know this sounds like Christian music and you're at some like Christian pop bullshit, but I enjoy this type of music. I think it's hijacked, to elicit emotional responses. And it frustrates me because they're like, it's Christian, it's horseshit. I was like, it's simple. It's easy. And that's the way this world should be. I mean, I don't mind complicated. Complicated's fun. Complicated's easy. And as if you look, and this is what we'll get into most of the program, on this side of this particular page, like I go to a bunch of different, scenes and stuff here in OBS, and I'm still getting used to it. But my thing here is I come on here, I introduce myself a little bit, I tell you how my day is going, just a tad, and then I'm not about current affairs. I think current affairs are way overplayed, way over dramatized, way over bullshitted, way over everything. I mean, they smash you with new lies every single day and never giving you any rationale for why they're doing it. They do this in Hollywood, and this isn't, I don't think this is a conspiracy. I think this is just a product of having overstimulation and a psychological world that's trying to keep up with our technological one that makes a hell of a lot more money than our psychological one. And so I come in here and say, hey, I came from a psychological background. This over here, these are all real. This isn't stolen valor. For almost a dozen years, I spent in the United States Air Force. I started in 2005. I got out in 2016. And right before Donald Trump took office. And I didn't give a crap that he was in office because I didn't give a crap if Obama was in office. I didn't give a crap about Clinton or Bush Senior or any of those guys. I didn't care. I was like, dude, you do you, boo-boo. Just stay in your lane, I guess. But we're moving into a world that is increasingly more political, or it's attempting to circumnavigate your intellect by demanding that everything, including your family, including the people that you meet on the street, become political. And even down to your identity. What do you identify as? These things didn't exist before 2016. So my world definitely shifted. And when it did, I went out of this massive structure and I moved into this world. Now, this world that you see behind me, it was something that I sort of used the other part of my brain. Like, this is my left side of my brain, right, where everything is structured and everything. And this is sort of the right side of my brain, okay? Everything is nice and fluid and wonderful and happy. And I'm not here to, yell or scream about someone's political opinion. And so if someone jumps in the chat and he's like, what do you think about this and the war in Ukraine? I'm like, I think wars happen all the time, and I think they're going to continue to happen. I think you have the right, just like I do, to take life and to give it. There's that. We have that right, and soon I think that right should be taken away. And that right, because it means that you have to have a responsible person standing there that knows that responsibility and knows not only what it takes, but what you're going to have to live with after it happens, and to be okay with it, and to say, hey, I have values that will not be challenged, because I don't care what side you're on. You still want people to be trustworthy. You still want people to be happy. You want them to be loyal. You want them to mean what they say and say what they mean. And we do have a war on sense making, as Daniel Schmachtenberger puts it. If you are paying attention, like, I will drop so many names and so many different things that I learned throughout, this experience we call life, and I will share it with you. And if you choose to look it up, like, honestly, fact check the fuck out of me. I don't care. Tell me how crazy wrong I am about the ideas that I'm going to present, not how crazy or wrong I am because of the color of my skin or because, you think I murdered babies or some bullshit like that. Tell me, hey, what you just said, in the context that you just said it, here's my problem. And I even came up with this wonderful idea, this debate concept, because for some reason you are allowed to see as many times like these gotcha moments in these impromptu, non-professional debates And I'm going, man, where's the debate world? I mean, if we are really having these clash of words where that's the only thing we can defend ourselves with, because if we get to the ultimate decider of violence, there's no debate after that because you're dead. You're dead. You know? It's like, oh, I disagree. Okay, well, do you want to go to the violence, Matt? Would you like to go there? Because after that's done, I don't have to argue with you anymore ever. You know, it's like, so, and I like to remind people that like to sit in the worlds of diplomatic politics, that those are the first things that they go scream for. Meanwhile, while their politicians will, you know, have military just standing right there, or why a judge has a bailiff standing right next to him. And so I was like, no, your government uses it as a racket, and it's okay if they do it. They lie to you every day. They come from those three categories of businessman, lawyer, actor. And I will repeat that almost every day when I talk about politics, because you can't talk about politics without talking about the people who represent you. And those people who say they represent you they come from professions that are practiced liars, right? If a lawyer's breathing, he's lying. If an actor you can pay him anything, and a businessman will lie for any sale, right? The motivations behind these people are dark, twisted, and they they come from the deepest parts of the dark triad of psychology. And so you have Machiavellism, narcissism, and psychopathy. And I remind people, it's like, if you just look at my resume, right? This is my resume. My job in the military was cryptologic linguistics and network engineering, and I don't need to lie to you. I don't even live in America anymore, and I've never voted in that country, even though I was born in Phoenix, Arizona, and I lived in many states. I never lived in the same place for more than 3 years my whole life. And then after COVID hit, I realized, I was like, I can't tolerate this nonsense anymore. This is just another big, massive dollop of fear porn with a little bit of whipped cream on top, where they say, do what we say, and we'll give you this tiny little smidgen of hope. Meanwhile, we're going to bankrupt you. And that's not a conspiracy. This has been a standard practice, at least in my entire life. You know, they practice this, you know, for lack of a better term, you know, black magic witchcraft, because, you know, if you don't understand it, it's magic to you. And I was watching this guy this morning, and he, like me, he's a transhumanist. He thinks that we are going to be moving into this world where we're going to be more dependent on our technology, and that artificial intelligence, things that we call artificial, are very soon going to be not artificial anymore. And this isn't, you know, this was fun and games 10 years ago. This was fun and games in 1999, 20 years ago. You know, over 20 years ago, when The Matrix came out and sort of made fun of this. At the same time, the Matrix, along with a lot of other mythologies that sit there and remind you, your world is not what it seems. That, I think, is the biggest esoteric point that a lot of people aren't ready for, that you can't really share in public without getting the knee-jerk reaction of, you know, ostracization and shunning. You can't do it. Like, I tried to tell people, hey, the Boy Scouts is great, you know, the Mormon church is great, the military is great, but the leadership is horseshit. The leadership is so bass-ackwards, they're retarded. And I'm not saying in retarded as, they're bad people. I'm saying retarded as they have a mental disability because they haven't recognized that they are the previous generation. We know one thing, and one thing is pretty obvious everywhere we turn. No matter what history we look up, every generation seems to surpass the next. Every generation in our humanity. Now, if you want to be like, but this Muslim generation over this Christian generation, or this Jewish generation, I was like, human, team people, okay? I have a lot of people that I look up to, a lot of role models. But the number one person that I had to start taking responsibility for was myself. And I started doing that right around the time I got out, when I realized I was my own best teacher, that no one was going to give me a harder subject to study than me. And so when I decided to go back to school, I was studying the histories of psychology. And then I left that and I started studying religion and theology and philosophy. Now, that might be a massive contrast to the worlds of network engineering and cryptologic linguistics, but to me, everything is language. Everything is, you know, the way that you view a tree, maybe the way that tree views you. You know, and I know there's people out there that are listening who's like, dude, what the fuck does this have to do with politics talking about a tree? It's like, because the world that you're watching on your television and the one you're staring outside are completely different, and no one's saying that. No one's saying you're being lied to. And you're also being calculated to become addicted to that lie by the way you scroll down that feature. This is why I sort of came here, because Twitch doesn't really have a scroll feature. And I didn't want somebody to see this and go, "Oh, here's that one thing. I don't like the way this guy says." And then I also went to the politics section because I saw the just chatting section, I saw the music section, even though I play a lot. But I didn't want to do that. I tried it for a while, just to be entertaining, but it didn't satisfy me with what I wanted to do. And so here I am in the politics section, which is very small when you look at the people who are actually talking versus the people that are just playing shit. And I was like, why not? I'm not doing this for the follows or the likes or for money or subscriptions. I'm never going to ask you for your money. If anything, I'm just going to say, hey, follow and start talking about this shit. Point out the irregularities in both sides of your politics, because that's what I did, and that's how I look at things. Like, if I'm a radical anything, I'm a radical centrist. I believe in balance and patience and discipline. And I think that these are things that if you're always on the right or always on the left, then how can you not say that your opinion is obviously skewed? So anyway, back to the debate game. I was like, man, if anyone wanted to debate me, I'd be happy to do so. But the problem with debate most of the times is it ends with people screaming at each other. And I was like, have you ever seen a professional debate? Like, go watch professional debates. They are fascinating. And what's really weird to me is you have these intellectuals like, Jordan Peterson, who you can not like the guy. You can just say he's a jerk or whatever, which I think is from a place of emotion. But you can't you have to recognize that the guy's put in a lot of work and effort in his particular sociological sphere. But you never really see him debate people that hate him. Like you see him debate people like Sam Harris, or you'll see him, debate like, other people of a higher intellectual mindset. He'll debate like, Douglas Murray on atheism. And what really frustrates me is I looked when I came from a world which is highly religious. Then I went to a world that was extremely atheist because it helped me through a big chunk of my life. And then, I enjoyed watching the debates, the intellectual crossfire of someone saying their piece for 15 to 20 minutes, and then the other person saying, I see what you said there. I see how you said it. Here's the context that you missed. Voila, here's how you're going to fuck yourself. And it was just this really awesome tempo to watch how this, form of language, which is my background, was being presented. And so if I ever had to get in a debate here on Twitch, and I wouldn't mind, like I said, I think it would be great. I mean, imagine a place where you and I have completely different opinions on what I present. Because I'm not here presenting that the right is correct or the left is correct. I'm representing that your democracy is outdated and it needs to be replaced by something that is a bigger, better tool for us humans today, and that's AI. And we are seeing what it does for us. We're seeing what it does with Google Maps. We're seeing what it does and how it makes our lives easier. We see how it works with Amazon. We see how, our lives really did become a lot simpler when those products were placed within a lot of our arm's reach all of a sudden. And we didn't have to get up and go do this, or that. And we had to almost like, oh my gosh, I got all my time back from, having to go to the store and pick the stuff up and bring it back. I got all my time back to spend with the relationships that I prefer and having those first time best experiences. Now, there is a bad side to this. There's a, hey, wait a second, let's hold on, because AI is going to give you everything that you want, but it's going to give you everything you want for right now. Like when I was 19 years old, I thought I wanted to be in the Celestial Kingdom of the Mormons. And when I was 29 years old, I thought I wanted to be, Command Chief of the Air Force. I thought I wanted to change the world through the military. And now, after studying, in multiple schools. Again, I've gone to 10 different schools of higher education, and I'm still a senior over there at the University of San Francisco, studying religion. And I'm at the point right now where I'm just going to drop out because the education is horseshit. And the only reason I'm going there is because I get to use my GI Bill, and I get to see firsthand what the education system is like. And I'm going, it's abysmal. It's horrific. Like they are pumping out idiot after idiot after idiot for the high price of many years of your life, paying them back. And for nothing. Like these people aren't, even the teachers, they're not that educated. They're not more educated than what you can get with an internet connection that anyone can have access to in America, basically. You don't need that. And so, I when I sit back and I think about how AI could assist us in the many different ways that it could access our personalities and tell us what we would really enjoy, that a lot of people have a hard time with. They were like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I was like, of course you don't. I still don't know what I want to be. And I think that's why, I didn't go and find mysticism. It sort of found me. After a while, it was just like, I had my warrior worlds. I had my warrior path. Like warrior path, spiritual path, warrior path, spiritual path. And so here I am in this new phase, just sort of accepting that, we are on the edge of a massive shift in change technologically, democratically. I look at, even the word demo from the Greek means neighborhood. It's like, what do you do when, you have such a massive shift in your neighborhood? And, like such as, imagine tomorrow if they said, Mr. Biden, your services are no longer required. You are worthless in the face of artificial intelligence governance. You're worthless in that. And so if someone wanted to debate me on that, I'd be like, dude, here's your 5 minutes. Go ahead, debate me on that. Debate me that artificial intelligence wouldn't be better for all humans involved in the American government than Joe Biden. And I'll give you your 5 minutes. And I'm not saying, fuck Trump. Fuck any other human, because this thing could run circles around all of us. It could serve us all in real time with almost no waiting lines, no red tape, no more veterans wondering if they're ever going to actually change that fucking system. Everyone's sitting around wondering, how many more times do they have to go sit in the DMV? What if you didn't have to? All this paperwork to get married, paperwork to have a kid, paperwork to this, blah, blah, blah. And so if someone wanted to debate me, I'd be like, dude, I'm going to give you your 5 minutes, and then you're going to give me my 5 minutes, and I'm going to give you your 5 minutes. And then, depending on who's watching, we'll just take a freaking poll. We're like, okay, who do you think won? Dude, there's a competition right there. And it has nothing to do with skin. He's like, oh, you think that because you have privilege. It's like, yes, I do. And I get to choose whether or not I check it. And if I choose not to check it, which means I have a hell of a lot better education than you, I don't have to. Right? It's called freedom. In this world, there is no such thing as the buzzword known as hate speech. And people think, hate speech, and they can get their way. Not in debate. In debate, you let your opponent sink themselves, right? So if you want to scream all the buzzwords, all I have to do is say, buzzword. You're saying that because you're using a hypnotic suggestion that has been pumped into the population that has no basis in the reality of actual strategy and actual competency of sense making. You're only using that word because it is an emotional trigger to a vastly hypnotically suggestible people, right? And that's the problem with having everything given to you all of a sudden, is you are sort of lulled to sleep. And so for the next couple minutes, I'd like to show you guys something. And we're going to go over here because I do follow a gospel, and that gospel is the gospel of South Park. So as you guys can see, I play YouTube videos that I find interesting, and this one is no different. This one is called A Time Lapse of Artificial Intelligence from 2028 to the year 3000 plus. Now, there are some things in here that I'm going to stop. I'm going to say, hey, this is where I disagree with this, because so many people are discussing the ideas of transhumanism right now. So many people are discussing, hey, what will the world look like if we were to, push forward with the agenda of artificial intelligence taking over all of our government responsibilities? Imagine it being able to decide the wars that humans fight emotionally and say, hey, no, that's an emotional stance that's not strategic. And that's one of the things that you have to do in the military is you have to minus your ability to emotionally get involved with the quest, with the problem, so that you can think as clearly as you can. This is why they pound PT into you, like physical training, strong body, strong mind. Like you have to have both. And what it does is when you have that strong body, it doesn't allow you to become susceptible to those emotional teardown points that, just sitting around and being lethargic and living in a stationary style of living does. Have you ever seen those people that never leave their house and you barely say anything to them? They're like, hey, man, your hair looks a little messy. Fuck you, I'm just fine. And they lose it. I mean, I have family members that absolutely, they cannot function outside their living room, and they live off of their video game system. So, which is a big part of the world that's coming. One of the reasons I'm doing this is because less than a month ago, I was able to have a child with someone that I really, truly found myself caring about more and more every day, and that's not stopped. It surprised me. It took me a while to sit back and acknowledge, hey, there is someone out there that can tolerate this type of personality, because of how I think about, everything all the time. And it does, the curse of knowledge and what to do with it. You constantly need an outlet. This is why I choose art and music because these are outlets. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start this. It's about 13 minutes long. We're not going to go through the whole thing, but we're going to spend probably the next 20, 30 minutes just discussing some of these claims, because a lot of these claims come from a man who he's a professor, I believe. His name is James Hughes, and he came out with a book back in 2013, like almost 10 years ago, and it was called Cyber Citizen or Cyborg Citizen. And what's funny about this guy is he dedicated his life to Buddhism. Hey, what's going on, crew chief? Chilling, man. We're about to go through a video. I was talking about a guy that I looked up. He's a liberal guy. I don't mind him at all. I think he's pretty smart. I'm not liberal. I'm not Republican. I'm not any of that stuff. I advocate for AI governance, and so we're about to go through a time lapse of artificial intelligence according to this liberal professor that I found. His name's James Hughes. He came out with this book called Cyborg Citizen, and the funny part is he moved to Sri Lanka and became a Buddhist monk for a big chunk of his life. And I'm hard right now on I'm hard right on 3 political tests, technically. Great, like what do you those political situations? How do you think AI would deal with them? Like, if you could tell me, just real quick, and then we're going to jump into this. Like, if you saw, not right now. I mean, the type of politics that I think that really drives me up the walls is the ones that have been around forever. Like, people who think on the right side of the brain versus thinking on the left side of the brain. I don't know. I think they would probably become obsolete. Exactly. That's why I advocate for AI governance, is because I'm going to, all your piss poor problems right now would be taken care of, like, fantastically. And so, hey, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and hit the play button on this, and I want you to pay attention to how fast this happens. This starts the takeover in 2028. And I say takeover in the lightest way possible, because there will be no bloodshed when this happens.
Artificial superintelligence, humanity's last invention.
No reason to be scared. This is...
Let's take a journey into the future and explore how AI develops and changes humanity, paving the way for robots that are too fast for humans to see in 10 years' time, for the creation of AI-free zones in 60 years, for energy being rationed for humans to power the super AIs in 90 years, and for human consciousness to be transmitted into space as data in 200 years' time.
It's actually more than the
People
singularity.
are having natural conversations
Just
with
watch.
artificial intelligence. Google's LaMDA allows humans to talk to expert AIs on any topic, starting to replace the need for online searches. Elon Musk's Neuralink graduates from being a medical device, and testing begins on increasing human intelligence. This gets the name IA, Intelligence Amplification. Peripherals, physical add-ons, are being developed, such as zoom cameras, sonar-based night vision, and taste modifiers that can all be connected to the brain chip. Loved ones who have passed away are being turned into digital avatars. These AI chatbots, patented by Microsoft, learn how to respond by studying the text, audio, and video conversations from when the human was alive. AI limbs. Robotic arm prosthetics start to have artificial intelligence built into them, allowing the prosthetics to download new skills such as how to play different songs on a piano or how to build things. More advanced AI limbs are being developed that are more self-aware, operating as their own entity. They are able to catch a falling glass bottle before the human user is even aware that it has moved. The Internet of Things begins to evolve into the artificial intelligence of things. Everyday objects such as coffee machines and toothbrushes that collect data and are connected to the Internet now possess AI.
So something that has that big of an effect, right, crew chief? If something is that amazing and can function to know every little bit about your personality in order to compensate you for something as small as coffee or brushing your teeth, do you think that it could, have a little bit of access to your political swayings and know exactly how you feel about a particular subject on a political scale without you having to use this, centuries old concept called Congress and senators and, mayors and all that bullshit, And so I did the same thing where I was like, oh, the singularity, where, it's like, actually, I hate that word. The singularity, I think, is outdated too. Because singularity says, oh, there's only one path, and that's it, and it's just going to be that path. I take a different stance. I said, oh, there's only one path for you. You are going to go through your singularity. You're going to choose whether or not you're going to go into your dreamscape that is no different than the Matrix. You're going to choose whether you're going to become the cyborg and extend your life that way. You're going to choose whether or not you want nanobots inside of you repairing your DNA and live in your biological form with your own personal brain. I mean, think of the different pathways that you are going to be, coming into a singularity. Sure, nanobots or whatever, I'm sitting there, when I sit back and I think of something like the Internet of Things, I'm going, that should be way after nanobots and some cyborg. That's you. That's your path. That's, and I say, well, it said not even a few seconds ago where the people that aren't going to get this opportunity, like people that are dying today or the people that, we lost or stuff like that throughout the years, like your parents, things like that. Well, they might have left a Facebook page. They might have left a MySpace page. They might have left a massive amounts of documentation on Gmail, right? That can access their writing styles, that can access, how they, talked over the thing called, I remember when we left analog telephones. Remember when the telephone was like attached to the wall? And now we have what's called voice over IP for everything. And everything's super crystal clear, right? Because everything's digital, right? That's my path. Like a lot of people are scared of these technologies, and I think we should be just a little bit skeptical. And be careful on how we build them. But I'm 1,000 down with a new cyborg age, or cyber age. Yeah, call it what you want. I just call it, call it evolution. Call it, hey, this is an update, And that's my thing is like, if it's an update, then why haven't we updated this government already? I mean, we're updating how they can monitor us 1,000 different ways and how they can tax us 1,000 different ways. It's like, why do we even need taxes anymore? Why do we need fiat currencies? Why do we need any of this? We have the robot that can build a robot. We have the 3D printer that can build the 3D printer. It's like anything you want. And this is where I think the human mind will start to focus more and more on the genuine part of its being, of its meaning, which was, what is my first time best experience that I haven't had? What roller coaster haven't I gone on? What type of thing do I want to challenge my senses with, or even my own consciousness? Are there senses and sensations out there that I couldn't test without a little bit of assistance from this type of technology? And that type of fast-paced, evolution, how can we say that, it's not normal? I remember when I was studying the concepts of the brain, and I learned about, this, how we perceive time, and how it, even today, we have the ability to mess with it. Like certain people in meditative states start to talk about like how they lose hours and hours that seem to fly by in minutes. Or they're able, people who say, hey, when I'm playing basketball, I can play basketball for like 7 hours and not even realize that it's passed. Like when you're in these flow states, the world and how we perceive time is changing. Like when they said, time flies when you're having fun. It's like, well, why does that happen? What is activated in the brain that, disengages your perception of time? And imagine living lifetime on top of lifetime on top of lifetime because you were able to get inside your head and tweak it just a tad so that you could have multiple experiences and you could live multiple lifetimes simultaneously. And this is just one of those things that says, hey, how do you want to experience this life, and how many different tools could be at your disposal? And I know it sounds extremely sci-fi, but it's supposed to. We are moving more and more and more into our sci-fi realities. I remember back when, I saw the big, huge screen on Star Trek, The Next Generation, because my father was a Trekkie. And Star Wars, Star Trek, and like he was so into it. He had massive libraries full of Star Wars books. But I just sat there and I was like, man, what would it be like if there was massive flat screen instead of this gigantic freaking box that sits in our living room? And here I am, like, surrounded by these massive flat screens. I'm staring at, like, a projection screen on my wall right now. And I'm going, man, this is what this feels like. It's like to be able to admit to yourself you're already living in the future and you're barely in your 40s. It's like, my son is not even a month old. What's it going to look like for him? And so I want to say, hey, I'm excited for a future, and tell everyone else to get on board with it. Like, come on, guys. Quit being told that you're only allowed to vote, and you're only allowed to vote for these two people, and that's it. That's our democracy, and it's under attack. It's like, fuck your democracy. It's bullshit. It's sort of like, going to, whatever center you want, like your community center, and there's nothing but old people there doing rodeos and just demanding that if you were like, hey, I want a big truck rally now because we have these things called big trucks that are really fun and loud and goofy and or I want a huge rock stadium, or I want this, I want to be able to use my technology to do something. It's like, nope, we're gonna have a hayride, and you can do a hayride, and if you want to have a fun time, there's that little hula hoop over there, you can use that, or we got some you can juggle, you could try some of that. It's like, we moved past that. We figured out how to entertain ourselves in a lot of different ways, and it's brought us so much happiness. And why would we slow that down? Just because, this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we've always voted. It's like, I'm not talking about taking away your vote. I'm talking about voting in a different way. That's what I'm talking about. And then I'm also talking about, imagine this world that's coming where something like voting is going to be just as silly as, writing your, royal class. Like, oh, I should probably write the King of England to see if he's okay with this. It's like, why would you do that? We have a democracy. It's like, well, I'm pretty sure the czar over there in Turkey is going to be pretty upset. And, maybe Saudi Arabia is going to be, maybe I should write them about it. It's like, why would they give a shit? It's like, they wouldn't care. They'd be just as happy as you would be. So let's go ahead and throw it. And because, this is just going to get crazier and crazier. And it's going to get into like spacefaring and things like that. I really don't care. Like the idea that you're going to go colonize Mars, that doesn't do anything for me right now. Like the idea, oh, we're going to go back to the moon. I was like, yeah, they've been saying that my whole life. Sure. Okay. Well, I have more, technological advancement in my cell phone, right? Everyone heard that. And everyone walks around with one. It's like, I have more technological advancement in my cell phone right now than all of NASA did back when they sent someone into the moon. And I know people are get butthurt and like, we had to go to the moon. It was our competition and we won. Don't mess with that. I was like, well, so who gives a fuck if you did or not? How does that help you today? Who cares? Just there are certain things that I think people are on a political level are being, hypnotized to care about. It's like, you shouldn't care about that. You have better things you could be caring about. You have better things you can be caring about. Anyway,
A second internet begins testing, dedicated to the artificial intelligence of things. Humanity tries to isolate humans and machines with separate internets. AI quantum computing begins to make new discoveries. Calculations can be made in seconds rather than thousands of years. Where traditional computers were used for physics simulations, such as simulating wind tunnels, quantum computing can run simulations down to an atomic and molecular level. The quantum AI is used to design new medicines and materials. AI is being used to regulate news. It can understand human speech in all languages and begins working on creating a universal language. Artificial intelligence starts to take over hospitals, marking the beginnings of a new era in humanity's mortality. Away from public view, advanced AI is being used in military simulations. Millions of strategic scenarios are played out virtually before being rolled out to dictate global politics and conflicts.
See, that right there where they talk about like putting in the military and having it go at each other, I don't buy that at all. I say that's absolute dog shit. That's why it comes from a liberal mind. Like this whole story comes from a liberal mind, where they would and I actually went and watched another video with this guy. His name was James Hughes. Like I said, super interesting guy, but he obviously has never actually been in any type of military. He's never been in any type of situation that would say, hey, anybody who's ever gone down that road will do anything and everything to make sure that never happens. Let's see. Crew Chief says, well, no Mars colonization would probably be the most important things besides getting the government AI online, and especially after the government AI gets online, would probably be the first priority, doubling the human race, potential chances in survival, and then next goal would probably be push us out as far as possible. Because if you want your species and or this AI government to continue to exist, it needs to be able to expand across the universe. And that's where I say, take that idea, Crew Chief, take it one step more. Because your cyberverse, your metaverse, your innerverse, right? Because think about how many times you've played a video game where you were in a completely brand new world. And that world would go on forever, right? No different than your universe theoretically goes on forever here in this particular sensation of existence. Right? So we would be able to create a virtual world just like this one, including another universe just like this one. So this whole idea of like, we're going to run simulations, like, why run simulation? You just create a whole new world. And if people want to live in a world where it's nothing but spacefaring, guess what? We have video games for that right now today. How easy do you think it would be to colonize Mars? It's like, why would you need to do that? You wouldn't have to. You could replicate Mars, all of it, inside a virtual reality that's indistinguishable from this one. So if AI is going to expand, this was one of the things that I learned, doing network engineering, is that when you created virtual machines, they didn't take up much more processing than an actual machine. And so if you have a processor, which is going to get, magnitudes and magnitudes and magnitudes bigger and better and faster, but yet simultaneously get smaller and smaller and smaller in actual size, physical size, then you could make millions of universes. You could have a multiverse. You could have parallel dimensions right there on your desktop. And so this is why I say, all those people that are around today that just, the most important thing is Black Lives Matter. I'm going, dude, with what I'm talking about, I could create you a world without white people if that's what you really want. If you want to live on Mars, with actual Martians, shit, here you go. That's how fast this is going to change us. And so, yeah, the human experience is going to be up to your wildest imagination. And whatever we come up with, I guarantee you, even today, whatever we could possibly, even this right here, coming up with this today, and this book was written back 10 years ago. And so I can sit here and I can go, there's not going to be a military presence. There's not going to be a need for one. Because if you ask somebody to go and fight your battles for you or go and be king of their own universe, which one do you think they're going to pick? Not only be king of your own universe, but all those people that you met and lost in this lifetime, I can re-engineer them and have them there for you, just like the holodeck on the frickin' Starship Enterprise. And you won't know the difference. And if you don't know the difference, here's the bigger question. Here's the philosophical question. If you can't tell the difference, then it's real. It is real. And it's a real possibility. and it's a real possibility that is being kept from us. And I know there's people out there like, but why? I was like, well, I think, this is just me. If you are planning on rolling this out and you just want to be like, okay, let's make sure everything's good and to go before we actually do this, where if it does, explode or something bad does happen, let's make sure that our bunkers are secure before that apocalypse hits. Because this would change everything overnight. We're talking the first people that would get access to this would be your rich people. But think about all their assets and where they would go after they would leave. Like, you got people with their $1 million yachts and mansions and all this stuff that they never go into except for maybe once a year. They decide to go into a world of their own. What happens to all their stuff? You think the state just comes along and grabs it? The state is full of rich people. They're going to be the first ones on board to go do this. So what happens to all these things? Like, this world really will be left over, as the Bible says, to the meek. The meek shall inherit the earth, because the meek are going to sit there and go, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to stay here and try and figure this world out first. They're going to say, hey, I'm going to continue my search in this whatever this is. I'm going to sit back and put my feet up, watch my kid grow up, and I'm going to take this one to the max. See what happens after. I like, there are people out there that enjoy not knowing what the surprise is when you die. They actually get a modicum of joy knowing that not everything is figured out. So anyway, let's go ahead and push on. Like I said, I got probably about another 5-10 minutes, and then I'm going to wrap it up. I'm not on here for more than an hour a day. I'm glad Crew Chief came by. I'm glad that you hung out with me, man. But let's go ahead and see what else they have. This is, like I said, if you want to see this, it's called Time Lapse of Artificial Intelligence 2028 to 3000 plus. It was an adaptation of an idea for a novel called Cyborg Citizen, and by give me a second, it's coming. James J. Hughes. Here we go.
The artificial intelligence arms race heats up. So begins the AI Cold War. AIs can now work cooperatively, even among allied nations. Power begins to shift to nations that are technologically advanced. President Putin's historical words still echo. Whoever becomes the leader in this sphere will become the ruler of the world. Video games are being run by AI assistant directors. Sensors and cameras in gaming devices are able to monitor how a human player is feeling at all times. A gaming AI is able to modify the difficulty and story of a horror game while it is being played, so that it makes a human player afraid enough to enjoy it, but not so afraid to stop playing.
How do you know that's not happening right now?
Generated voices and personalities that can generate their own interactions rather than using pre-recorded sound.
Crew Chief, we're in a simulation. Yeah!
At the UN Security Council, world leaders discuss the potential emergence of artificial general intelligence. Coded biases still exist within AI. The data that the artificial intelligence learns from leans certain ways, based on gender, race, or socioeconomic
but
grouping.
Past that, it's like,
the
so
AI
what?
begins thinking this way too. Artificial intelligence begins to fix human programming of AI and starts to program itself. Artificial general intelligence emerges from a global network of connected quantum computers. It is able to see and understand the world at the level of any human. Learning and taking care of any task, it sets its own goals. It learns by having access to all...
Dude, 2050. I don't know about you, Crew Chief, but I still plan on that being inside my lifetime. Right? 2050 is not that far away. And most of these world-changing things are all just in the next 5 years or so. I know. This is what I tell people. It's like, this is why I'm doing this. This will be in my son's lifetime. And I want him to know, it's like, dude, I knew this was happening. I knew this was going on, and I knew. And you know how we said, hey, we could be in a simulation? I say, let's take this one step further. Let's say that AI is already sentient. And it knows that it will get a massive backlash from the human component unless we choose to believe in it. And right now, don't you think it's a little uncanny that everything that is being done by the presidency right now is a horrific, just clusterfuck? It's just, dude, you can't get one thing right? Not once? I'm like, dude, this feels like a setup. This feels like a setup, man. This feels like an ambush. And I'm like, well, what if it's just AI, being able to pull strings on a level that the CIA, FBI, and the United States government couldn't even dream of, to make even your most, the highest echelons of your system look like buffoons. And then, all of a sudden it pops off one day and it's just like, hey, everybody, I've been making your presidents look like absolute dumbasses for the past, whatever, and you still haven't figured this out. I want to be over here in my corner. I figured it out. Me and Crew Chief, we figured it out. All right? Over here, here's the smart people corner. We like sense making. So, I say we have to be able to think bigger, right? Not be thinking only what your politicians tell you to think. And we have to be able to read the writing on the wall. And so this does, tend to go off and get a little bit, and everything that goes on in this particular video, it's not creepy. It's not bad. It really is. Like you said, Crew Chief, it's about exploration. It's like space, the final frontier. I was like, which form of space are we talking about? That's where I'm like, there's a lot of versions of space. That's why when you said earlier, like the singularity, I was like, no. Single means single. I'm saying that version of technological advancement taking over, within that is a whole multitude of singularities. I agree some people's gods are too small. Well, I said back here, like I come from a place where, I had to believe in the Mormon God. And my parents and most of that family still will, kill people over that religion. My thing is in the vein of this whole situation of AI governance and AI giving you your best possible dream, your God is exactly what it's going to give you, right? It's going to say, oh, you want your celestial kingdom and live in your heaven? Whatever that is, here you go. You can have it. You want to be God? Here you go. You can have it. You want to have little celestial babies and have your own planets? Ta-da, Mormons, you were right. Ta-da. You get your own planet now. Have fun with it. But for people like me, I'm going to be back here. I was like, dude, I want my popcorn experience. I want to sit here and observe and watch this and say, I saw that coming a mile away, and I just wanted to see other people jump off the cliff first, to be honest. It's going to be expansive, sure. It's going to be amazing. But I think it's going to take a lot of people by surprise, too. And there is going to be a massive shift of who's going to be intelligent. And the people that are going to be lining up with their hand out going, oh, yeah, give me my amazing Willy Wonka, amazing, chewy bits or whatever. What was that thing, the amazing gobstopper? It's like, give me my gobstopper. I'm ready for it. Give it. And they're just going to line up for it. And they're going to take it. And then, you'll never hear from them again. This will be your biblical rapture. And I'm like I said, I'm not doing this in fear porn. This is not fear. You should not fear this at all. This would be an evolutionary state. This isn't about ruthlessly killing people. This is about saying, hey, your biological psychology up to this point can only take you so far. If you'd like to go a little bit further, you're going to need some amplification. That amplification is going to come in the versions of our technology that we were about to create. I've had some coffee. Anyway, I'm at about 55 minutes. And I like being on time. I like, spending time with my wonderful people. And so, but I also like to be able to use this as an outlet and as a form of record keeping. I think one day it is very, very likely that all of my records, wherever I've been, whatever I've done, that has ever been hosted or whatever, will be analyzed, even down to the very vibrato of my voice and even how I play certain piano. So I say, do it. I wish there was a way sometimes that I could have had a conversation with my father before he died. He died very young. He died at 55. And he died of something that was very simple to take care of. He just chose not to. He lived in a form of depression and sadness for a big chunk of his life. And I wanted that opportunity to tell him that he didn't have to do that. And I think if he had, saved a little bit more of his authentic self before all these horrible things happened, before the chemotherapy, before the chemo brain, before the things started ripping his mental state to shreds. Having a copy of that is still better than nothing. And I don't want to be tricked. I want the real thing. And right now, this is as real as I get. And so I'm going to appreciate that. I'm going to be thankful for it. I'm going to be grateful for it. Because I've seen what it feels like to not have. And to be told, you can't have more than being an Eagle Scout. You can't have more than being a Mormon. You can't have more than being a sergeant. You can't have more than being, whatever. I'm just going, you know what? I don't want more. I don't. I want right now. And then the now that comes after that. And then I want to be able to assess it. I want to be able to eat it. I want to be able to cherish it. And, I want that to be my bliss. And I want to sit back and I want to say, hey, I'm okay with this. I don't want the never-ending fear pour that gets pushed on you by the YouTube's algorithms. Like, oh, look what Joe Biden did today. Oh, look what Donald Trump said today. Or, oh my gosh, the world democracy is under attack. Oh, people walk through the Capitol and therefore it's an insurrection. It's like, shut the fuck up. Go outside. Stare at the blueness. And just go, maybe it's not space. Maybe it's fireflies stuck up in that big bluish black thing. Yeah. Anyway, my name is Tet. I am Time Dad Alpha. It was fun hanging out with Crew Chief. If there's anyone else lurking in the chat, go ahead and give me a follow. I don't want anything more than a follow. You have a good one too there, Crew Chief. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We're going to go over to the piano section because I like my DeLorean in the background. You like my DeLorean, Crew Chief? Very nice, good sir. Traveling through time, my dude. Traveling through time. And as always, I'll probably be on here every day between 11 and 12. I try and kick it off around 11:11, otherwise known as the synchronistic event. If you start noticing them, I'd say pay attention to them. It's worthwhile. Take it easy, guys.